So I think that's what native science is, like testing out the nativeness of our science. Because like before our ancestors, we were scientists. You know, we didn't get right the first time, but we got it right a couple times. You know, they asked their family, and like they asked their Gia, Tara, and so that means, so Gia and Tara means your mom and dad. It's a lot to take away from this, you know. You learn, hopefully you take it in your mind, take it in your heart, keep it on, you know, you just pass it on to each of your family, hoping it won't go away here. Ovegano singiti ko meme here na withdraw piha na kat sadimu na kwerkia to omu na bringo ne hapringo ta kanoa.
Jonathan is a sixth grader at Capo Community School in Santa Clara Pueblo, about 25 miles north of Santa Fe. His school is one of 7 across New Mexico, plus 1 in Minnesota, that are trying out a new science curriculum this school year, centered on Indigenous knowledge and learning practices. It's called the Indigenous Science Initiative.
The Indigenous Science Initiative is a collaboration between Naka Inspired Schools Network and the Lannel Foundation to work with teacher designers to develop a community-led middle grade science curriculum. There's a wealth of research now that shows that students respond to curriculum that reflects their context and their identities, and that when students feel a connection to what they're learning, whether it's a mirror or a window, they're more engaged, and they tend to achieve more as well.
Our students don't learn in compartments. Like for this hour you're doing just math, or this 45 minutes you're doing science. But they need to see how things are connected and how they're related and what those relationships are. So even though within our curriculum we have our big ideas and our core values, as you localize as a community, you can apply your core values to the work that's there and see the relationships, how they're interconnected and how they build upon each other.
When students aren't seeing themselves reflected in the curriculum, that becomes really problematic, because curricular erasure really is a difficult thing for young people to try and navigate through as they're trying to be successful in schools.
Historically, education in the U.S. was a tool to violently assimilate Native children, and the system still isn't really designed for them. In 2018, a state judge found New Mexico was violating its own constitution by failing to provide a sufficient education to the majority of students in the state, including Native kids. Instead of suppressing culture, this new curriculum is meant to help students connect it with science.
All of the components of what makes a community is something that I try to bring within the classroom, and then connecting with families and connecting to the calendar of the community, of what's happening within the community, is something that I try to bring into the classroom as well, because it's very important. And to what I feel Indigenous science is it's the teachings. And it starts from their ancestors, in terms of being scientists, and with astronomy and with connection to the land and pottery making, the arts, all of that are examples of Indigenous science. So when I look at what we're doing, I feel like it's reinforcing a lot of what they're getting at home and within their community, but also providing that opportunity for them to have a voice.
On the day we visited, Diane's 6th grade students paired up with kindergartners for an activity. The idea was that by preparing and then baking a few different foods in an outdoor oven the whole school helped build, they'd learn about kinetic energy and the scientific method in a way they could actually connect with.
If you're native here, I think it's good to know about your ancestors, how they make stuff, or how they did stuff, or how did they do that, or how did they make this.
When I was growing up, we didn't have this type of interactions with our culture. Like we had Tewa language lessons, and none of this, what we're experiencing now with the KCS school, what I see is, especially with Diane, incorporating a lot of like the adobe making, today bread making, making jerky, making pottery, weaving belts. It's all hands-on and it's all tied and connected to culture.
So the community engagement work really has been an embedded part of what the Indigenous Science Initiative is doing, and it is grounded in indigenous knowledges. It's grounded in indigenous ways of knowing and thinking and learning. And there's this reciprocal nature that goes along with it, so that there's always a check back with the community.
Everything that I learned when I was growing up was like New Mexico history, and very little was talked about indigenous people, and the little bit that was talked about was focused on like tribes that aren't even in this area. So like maybe the Sioux or the Comanche, or those are the two that kind of stick out in my memory, and very little on the Pueblos except for a brief touch on the Pueblo Revolt. And you know, that's not enough. And I think that if we had this type of curriculum in every school, not just indigenous schools, but in every school, then we would be more understood. The indigenous population will be more understood by all of the communities, or all of, you know, humanity.
One of the initiative's big plans is to make the curriculum open source later this year, meaning it'll be free to access online. The teacher designers and an advisory collective are thinking through what that could look like.
So for anyone who's accessing this in the future, we hope that they're able to see and honor and value and adapt and localize what's been created, and also see all the other great stuff that's out there and think about how that fits within their design, within their context, within their community, based on what they know about their students. We don't see this curriculum as an end-all be-all, but as a demonstration and as a starting point.
One of the biggest challenges that I think we've been trying to work through is the localization piece. And so the challenge for the teacher designers and for the advisory in some ways really is, how is it that we can make this more accessible across the board? How can we put enough front matter into the curriculum itself so that people feel comfortable and confident enough to figure out, how do you find a knowledge keeper or a knowledge sharer in the community that you're from? Because a lot of the knowledge that we're asking the students who are learning from this curriculum to engage in is based on ancestral knowledge.
There's so much knowledge within our communities, and that's one thing that I'm learning, that, and a lot of it's not within textbooks, a lot of it is oral history, a lot of it is ways that may not be openly shared with others, but making those connections where that becomes part of the curriculum, where they're able to come in and show and teach the students different important things that are important to who they are. With our Pante today, I had the students interview some of the elders or community members to talk about like what community means to them, and how does food symbolize that, and reflect upon either stories or memories that relate to cooking. So they came in and they connected at home and brought those ideas as well into the classroom. So I think that there is an abundance of knowledge and just trying different ways, and usually the community will back you up, knowing that you're putting that effort in and knowing that you're on the same line that they're on.
If you don't know what pante means, it's like an oral oven. So we call it an outside oven. I've heard that about this oven. We've been using it for how many generations, how many years, and it's like a survival thing we use, and we use it for like our feast day, because it's just going down, passing down. Just someday I might just get to do that too. I might make one, or I'm gonna come here to do it with the kids, the other generations after me.
I'm Bella Davis, and this has been a collaboration between New Mexico in Depth and NMPBS. Thanks so much for watching. Before you go, let us know in the comments, what does Indigenous science mean to you?